Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Rati here. Today I'm going to review a book which is one of the best known books in the field of motivational reading or self-help books. In fact, the popularity of this book is so legendary that when I was living in Delhi, literally I could not find any street bookshop that was without a copy of this book. I'm talking about none other than Robin Sharma's The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. Robin Sharma, a very well-known motivational author. So without much ado, let's begin the review. But before I review the book, I have a confession to make at the outset, which is that, to be honest, I am not the ideal person to review self-help books or motivational books. In fact, for a long time, I was biased against reading motivational books precisely because I thought that these books are full of cliches and obvious things like, get up early in the morning, do this, do that. And it's kind of like losers who read self-help books. This was my perception a couple of years back. But first I read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, and now reading The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma has totally changed my perception about motivational books, and today I'm going to share the changed perception with you guys. Now, coming to the story plot is very simple in The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. It's not much complicated. There's a guy called Julian Mantle who is a top shot lawyer, those multi-millionaire kinds. He has everything in his life going for him on the surface of it. He has so much of money, so much of bank balance, a very lavish and pompous lifestyle, and the kind of success that everybody wishes for. So he's the ideal guy to sort of perhaps emulate if you want to be successful, you would think. But Julian Mantle's, the kind of life he has lived because of that striving for success has taken him away from his spirit, from his happiness in life, from, the improvement of his personal self. So this kind of sort of takes a toll on him, and all the stress built up, due to getting involved in this rat race ultimately takes a toll on him. Till one fine day, he literally collapses in the middle of a court hearing. He gets a heart attack. And that's a changing moment of his life. That's when Julian Mantle, the multimillionaire, billionaire lawyer, decides to retire to the Himalayas, where he meets a bunch of holy men and whose teachings he takes. He lives in the Himalayas for a long time, and that changes his life trajectory for good. He himself becomes a monk. So this is basically the plot, and the rest of the book, most of the book, is literally a conversation between Julian Mantle and a slightly younger lawyer who is his apprentice and who is a part of the same rat race now. So the guy who became the monk, Julian Mantle, is having a dialogue with this younger lawyer and offering him his teachings, whatever he learned about, self-improvement, improvement of the spirit and the self in the Himalayas from those monks. So now, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, coming to the sort of my experience with the book, the fact that it doesn't have a lot of concrete storytelling can be a bit of a put off for, some people. To be honest, it was a bit of a put off for me as well. Because as I said, the storytelling element is very limited in the book, unlike a book called, let's say, Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist, in which it is the story, which is going forward. The author is not telling us anything, but the author is just showing us things through the story element. But in The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, it's mostly a conversation in which, the teachings, the abstract concepts are literally being told to you, communicated to the reader. So this is something I think which can be a drawback for some people who like more narrative story telling style. But, it's a writing style, valid writing style in its own right. And I think to convey the point of this book, this kind of writing style works. But what it would do is that, it would this is the kind of book that you cannot read in one sitting because the storytelling element is not there so much. So if you read a couple of pages, then you would probably get bored, and you also need to apply, your mind actively to absorb all that information and knowledge that is being thrown at you. You need time to think through those concepts. So this is a book which you have to, constantly reflect while you're reading it. So you cannot read it in one sitting. I took a couple of sittings to read it. I used to read it for some time every day, and then sort of just leave it there when it got too heavy for my mind and my mind started getting muddled up, and I read it over a couple of days. Now, coming to the book itself, the strength of this book is that, it has a lot of symbolism. Robin Sharma is the monk who sold his Ferrari. Whatever it's lacking in, storytelling, direct storytelling, it makes up for it through symbolism. The symbolism is so rich, whether it is that a little village that is being described where the monks used to live and where Julian Mantle went, the little village in the Himalayas, where you can literally, visualize that village where the houses are made of roses, and you can literally close your eyes and imagine a monk meditating in one of those little huts made of roses. Then the rituals and the different activities that, are described in this book, whether it's the ritual of silence or whether it's the ritual of the lake, in which you literally go and stand in front of a lake with its crystal clear shining waters, and you close your eyes and imagine the things that you would want to be, imagine the kind of person you would want to become. And then through the power of your imagination and reflection, you kind of imagine you're seeing those precise reflections on the surface of the lake, the person you want to become. So, these symbols, these beautiful symbols, or be it, the whole thing about the exercise about meditating in front of a rose, imagining a rose. The symbolism is what makes the book very unique and interesting. And because of the symbolism, you can remember these principles even though they're abstract. There's this whole analogy of, a sumo wrestler in a garden and a path full of diamonds. I won't tell you about that analogy completely. You have to read the book for it. But that's what I'm trying to say, is that the book is very rich in this symbolist visual imagery, and the symbolist universe which Robin Sharma creates stays with you strongly, many parts of it, even after you've read the book. And a lot of it, really makes sense if you think about it and apply it to your own mind, apply it to your own consciousness. For example, the whole thing about, the mind being a garden. It's such a simple thing, but if we never really think about the mind being a garden. So one of the simple formulations of this book is that the mind is literally a garden, and this is one of the teachings that he learns from the monks, the lawyer. And you have to nourish it, just like you nourish a garden with beautiful flowers. You have to nourish the mind with beautiful thoughts, sublime thoughts, and let negativity stay away. It's so simple, it sounds so simple, but only if we could follow this all in our real life, in our practice. Then the book underlines 10 rituals for radiant living, and I absolutely love these 10 rituals. And these are, again, pretty basic, simple things which we neglect in life. The ritual of silence, the ritual of, taking care of your physical being, the ritual of nourishment, which is basically taking care of the food you eat, eating only healthy food. Then there is the ritual of music, which pretty much means you listen to music every day, or the ritual of knowledge, which pretty much means that, you enrich your mind every day by learning something new. So these are simple things which are, sort of told through Robin Sharma's unique symbolism in a way that makes these so appealing and so convincing. That's one of the strengths of the monk who sold his Ferrari. Robin Sharma's writing style is very convincing. When you're reading all this, as I said, you can literally visualize the monk sitting somewhere applying all these principles to yourself, and you can sort of apply these principles to your own being as well. So a lot of these things are very abstract, as I said, and very obvious things. But Robin Sharma, through his writing style, he manages to give, a kind of concrete, objective dimension to these things, so that you can, remember this in points. Okay, the ritual of silence, the ritual of alive nourishment. Then you have to stand in front of the lake, meditate in front of a rose, all these things. And I mean, one of the criticisms leveled against self-help books or motivational books, and this was one of the things that I thought when I was against reading motivational books, is that, they just sell you a lot of stuff which is already very simple and which everybody knows about, basic commonsensical stuff. Okay, get up early in the morning, or spend some time on thinking about what you did throughout the day, maintain a journal about the day, be reflective, be nice, be kind to people. So you might just think, oh, I already know all these things, so why do I need to read a self-help book or a motivational book? But that is the beauty of life. Often things which we need to apply to our own life are simple truths, simple things, but we are expecting, something very magnificent, something very larger than life, something too complex that, okay, if we apply to this, that our life will change. How can simple things change our lives? But it is actually the simple things which change our lives, but we do not have the willpower or the inclination to implement those simple, obvious things. And that's where a book like The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari comes in handy, because the sheer symbolic universe, as I said, which Robin Sharma creates through these so-called simple things is, something which sort of makes these things appealing to us. Coming to the target audience of the book is useful for everybody. Of course, if you're somebody who is actually at that level of corporate success to which Julian Mantle belonged, then the book would have obvious repercussions for you, and you would start relating it with your own lifestyle and the kind of stress that, you have become a victim of. But I think in today's life, whether you're a student or somebody starting your professional life or a mid-career professional, the book has some kind of relevance for you. Because the wisdom offered in this book is very worldly wise. The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari is not telling you to, literally just leave your life, leave everything, leave all worldly notions of success and retire to the Himalayas. No, it's not telling you to do that. Rather, it's telling you to strive for a balanced life, a life in which your personal and professional development go hand in hand, a life in which you also have time for physical exercise, mental nourishment, time for happiness, pursuing your hobbies, pursuits, spending time with your family and your professional goals. In fact, the connection here is that the more fulfilled your personal life is, the better your personal life is, the more sorted and the more sort of successful your professional life will be. So the success in professional life is also dependent on how sorted you are mentally. So The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari has messages for everybody. If you're a student who is looking forward to a professional life, then this is a lesson for you from the beginning stage itself, that never, become part of a rat race, be your own master and do things at your own pace, and never forget to live while doing things, and do everything with passion. If you are a mid-career professional, who has become stifled due to the monotony of your work routine, then it's time to also, have courage and rethink what you're doing and see if what you're doing is actually your calling. So this is the kind of book, as I said, which basically has a lot of stuff for everybody. And I'll try to give you an example to explain, the power of sort of reaffirming simple things which we know through language or through articulation. So a friend of mine, who is into fitness and who's a fitness instructor, told me a couple of months back to make some modifications to my diet. It wasn't a major diet that he was asking me to follow. He just asked me to, stick to eating only fruits for breakfast. So he said you can eat as many fruits as you can, but before 12 in the noon, make sure you have to eat only fruits, and make sure you eat a salad before every meal. A very simple piece of advice, you would say. Okay, the kind of things that, we already know. What is so new about this? It's not a keto diet or any other fancy diet, but following this simple advice, sort of helped me make profound changes to my health, to my physical health and well-being. And then other thing he told me is that you should get up in the morning, and when you get up in the morning, do 15-20 minutes of pranayam, Anulom Vilom pranayam every morning, which is a part of yoga routine. Again, a very simple advice. But that's the power of, articulation and reaffirmation. A simple advice, when offered with conviction, can actually change your life. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. That's what a book called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma does. It, sort of tries to show you the mirror to your soul, that if a multi-millionaire, a person who has everything going in his life, everything going for him, everything, seemingly rocking in his life, can fall into the pitfalls of depression and then can again emerge, like a phoenix rising back from the ashes with all his depressions gone and him looking younger than ever. if you can do all this just by following the wisdom of these sages and by making a lot of changes in his lifestyle, then so can you, so can a common person. So I would certainly recommend that, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari is definitely a great one-time read. And I think now that I've read it one time, I think it's the kind of book that should stay with you, the kind of book, that you should keep coming back to. And I think that's one of the most powerful things about this book, that the moment, you're getting straight from this path, like one of the things that I've applied to myself from this book is to stay away from negative thoughts, because I have a tendency to, sometimes think about negative things, and you also start Googling negative things. This is one of the tendencies I would confess that I have. So the first point of wisdom that I have taken from this book is to sort of keep the mind like a garden and try and, keep yourself away from negative thoughts as much as you can. And this is just, one point that I've picked up. There's so many points in this book that you can slowly apply to your own life. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I would definitely provide a link to buying the book on Amazon. You can check out the link. And if you like my content, please do press the like button and subscribe to the channel.